So, Mark, this is take two of our podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, I think actually we're quite lucky that this has never happened before. But something disastrous happened today. We recorded a brilliant podcast. It was hilarious.
Award-winning.
It was award-winning. It was everything that you listeners want it to be. And then something awful happened. There was some software glitch, and it's gone, hasn't it?
It has gone. Yeah, the lost podcast. I got home, got a call from Gabriel, our producer, said it's been corrupted. The file is gone. I closed my eyes, had a snooze, and I'm actually just woken up. What have you been doing for the last 2 hours?
I saw the phone ring. It's a Gabriel. I was like, this, like, you know, the unfortunate thing about our jobs is that when the phone rings and it's the producer calling and it's a slightly strange time of day, it's only ever bad news, isn't it?
Never good.
Something horrific has happened news-wise, or in this case, that great podcast you did 2 hours ago, it's gone. You need to do it again. So I've just put the kids to bed. I had poured myself a gin and tonic, which is now getting warm. And
Gin and tonic, I like your style. I'm drinking Sprite. Professional to a fault.
There we go. Anyway, we are back. I'm Mark Stone.
And I'm James Matthews, just down the road from you, Mark. You're at home, as am I. On the podcast this evening, podcast number 2, Trump just won't leave Cuba alone. Now his Justice Department is laying a murder charge against Raul Castro, brother of Fidel, former president and communist revolutionary. Is this the precursor to invasion? Mark, did you hear my phone go there?
Was that the producer again? It's not recording.
That's my good lady wife. I'm picking her up from Dragon Boat Racing.
Right.
And it's all been shifted back.
Oh, well, we must get our skates on. So we're going to be talking about Cuba. We're also going to be talking about the Democrats. They are looking back at what went wrong in 2024. I think the answer to that is lots. Meanwhile, the Republicans are plowing ahead towards the midterms and getting rid of any non-MAGA Republicans in the process. We will tell you all about it. So, James, let's begin with Cuba. Raul Castro, or certainly Castro, is a name that we're all familiar with. Raul is the brother of Fidel. Fidel was the president, then came Raul. The Americans don't like either of them. Raul was the military revolutionary, former president of Cuba. He ran it for 13 years, from 2008 to 2021, after succeeding Fidel. And he's now indicted, Raul Castro.
Yeah, indicted by a federal district court in Miami, charges of murder and a conspiracy to kill American citizens. This is after, 30 years after 2 planes were shot down off Cuba in 1996. These flights were laid on to help people who wanted to flee the country. 4 people were killed, the planes shot down by Cuban jets. Raul Castro, he was Cuba's defense minister at the time, and now, at the age of 94, he's been charged by the Americans. So have 5 Cuban military pilots. This is, Mark, a significant escalation by the Trump administration. He's never made any secret of his loathing for the Havana regime. And I suppose these charges are reminiscent, are they not, of the situation regarding the former Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, now languishing in a New York cell.
Yeah, so could we see 94-year-old Raul Castro seized from wherever he is in Cuba and brought, not to New York, but in this case, the charges have been brought in Miami. So could he be in a Miami courtroom before long? It was certainly quite the moment listening to Donald Trump's former lawyer, now the acting attorney general, reading out the charges against Raul Castro. The downed planes, that's the center of the case against him. And Raul's brother Fidel took responsibility at the time for the downing of the planes, claiming that they were dropping anti-regime leaflets over Havana all those years ago. The indictment implicates Raul, though, calling he and his brother the final decision makers in the Cuban military chain of command.
Yeah, the Americans aren't saying what plans they have to bring Castro to justice, but I think the parallels will be ominous, will they not, for the Cubans, parallels with Maduro and Venezuela. In that situation, things turned very quickly from dialogue with the US about change to US military intervention. Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel, he's called these charges a political stunt, says that they are designed to justify the folly of a military aggression against Cuba. On the shooting down of the planes 30 years ago, he says the Americans were lying about these events, said the pilots involved had violated Cuban airspace and were ignoring repeated warnings. Trump today, he was asked about Cuba, and I think for Cubans looking for any kind of reassurance, well, that was thin on the ground.
Cuba, look, it's a failed country. Everybody knows it. They don't have electricity. They don't have money. They don't have really anything. They don't have food. And we're going to help them along, and we're going to help them because number one, I want to help them. I don't want to on a humanitarian basis, but we have the Cuban American population, much of it living in Miami and Florida. That's a great group of people, amazing group of people, industrious, they're great Americans. They've wanted this to happen. They want to go back to their country. They want to help their country. I hope they're going to stay here, but they want to go back. They want to invest in their country and, see if they can bring it back. Other presidents have looked at this for 50, 60 years doing something, and it looks like I'll be the one that does it, so we'd be happy to do it. We want to open it up to Cuban Americans where they can go back and help.
Trump there talking up intervention, actually, and contradicting, Mark, what he said just the day before.
Should we expect any escalation here, or should they expect anything? Yes.
No, there won't be escalation. I don't think there needs to be.
Yeah, no change there. Trump contradicting himself. He does it day by day, sometimes does it hour by hour, minute by minute. He might call it strategic ambiguity. Others might say, they might call it something a little different. Anyway, threatening Cuba is not something new from President Trump. He's been threatening it, the island nation, for months, almost in the same breath as Venezuela and Iran. He's made no secret of his desire to expand the might of the United States. Hemispherically, the Western Hemisphere he sees as his fiefdom, Greenland, Venezuela. He wants to control the Western Hemisphere, and having a friendly government in countries like Cuba, like he now appears to have got in Venezuela, where he is able to siphon off the oil, very useful too. Cuba would be a big win for him.
Yeah, a history of antagonism between the two countries. Of course, Cuba just an hour south or thereabouts of Florida. It's a long-time foe of the US. The countries actually only restored diplomatic relations in 2015 during Obama's second term. Before that, relations had been severed since the Cold War, 1961, and the era of the Bay of Pigs and the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, what's happening now, though, does all come at a time of real crisis for Cuba. I don't know if you saw, James, did you see Stuart Ramsey's stuff from Cuba? Fascinating stuff. It's hard to report from there. He has done it. He's been in, he and his team, recently, and have reported on the difficulties as a result of the blockade that the Americans have put in place in order to try and pressure the Cuban government.
A lot of people say it's worse than it's ever been.
Now, the president has said that he expects to focus his attention on Cuba after he's dealt with Venezuela, of course, and Iran.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba.
Certainly we know that the Americans and the Cubans are talking, but what does this all mean for the people of Cuba? What will this country look like when the blockade is lifted?
I urge anyone to go and watch it. We've also done one of those Sky News Explains on YouTube, which is, again, goes into a lot of detail about what's going on in Cuba. So look out for that. Look those up. But it's clear from all of that the country is in the grips of I think we could call it a historic economic challenge. Oil supplies for domestic use are out. Power plants have no fuel after Trump imposed his blockade of fuel shipments from any country.
Yeah, he's doing his uttermost to choke Cuba, isn't he? And I think, Mark, the worry will be in Havana when they look towards the Middle East and they see Donald Trump getting stuck in something of a quagmire with regard to Iran. They know he is the king of distraction and a president who had a result in Venezuela and clearly has his eye on something similar with regard to Cuba. So, it doesn't take a genius to think, well, trouble in Iran, distraction in Cuba, where he may go looking for a Venezuela-style military success. So the spectre of military intervention isn't far away on this. If he did decide to overthrow the government in Havana, it would be clearly an enormous decision, one with huge ramifications. Iran, a major problem for him, yes, but for some Americans, many Americans, that is still a faraway conflict, very much in the peripheral vision. Cuba, that would be an issue right on America's doorstep.
It would. And in the first version of this podcast, we talked a bit about this, didn't we?
Those are the days.
Yeah. But I do think it's a good point. He went into Venezuela and it was a spectacular military success, and now the Venezuelan government appears to be towing the line. The deals are being done. Oil is being exported. It's going well. American Airlines is now flying to Caracas. Wow, who'd have thought? So that went well. Then he went into Iran thinking, and I think it's widely reported now that he believed that Iran was going to be as simple as Venezuela, mad as that may be. To believe, but he did think it was going to be a simple one and done. It wasn't. So you can imagine a scenario where he's, perhaps, and maybe he is going to bomb Iran again. Personally, I don't see it. I don't think he wants to. And so I think he will probably go for a deal in Iran that will be very inadequate and objectively will be a bad deal, possibly, probably significantly worse than the deal Obama got, which Trump then ripped up. So he needs a distraction. So the bad deal signed in Iran, distract, do something in Cuba. I think it's very possible.
Yeah, bad deal in Iran, albeit one that he will endeavor to wrap up as a success.
Yeah, he'll do two things. He'll wrap it up as a great success, and then he will make everyone look the other way, and he'll roll the dice in Cuba, maybe.
And of course, he's got a photo opportunity of sorts this weekend, doesn't he? His son's wedding. He's been talking about that.
Your son's wedding this weekend, by the way?
He'd like me to go, but it's going to be just a small little private affair, and I'm going to try and make it. I'm in the midst. I said, this is not good timing for me. I have a thing called Iran and other things. That's one I can't win on. If I do attend, I get killed. If I don't attend, I get killed. By the fake news, of course, I'm talking about. No, but he's got a very person who I've known for a long time, and hopefully they're going to have a great marriage.
Now, that's the second time I've listened to that, Mark.
Well, it's the third time now because you listened to it in the last recording as well.
Yeah, 3 times. But I tell you what, 3 times, and I still don't know if the person he's talking about knowing for a long time is his son or the bride-to-be. I mean, if it's Don Jr., then clearly he would have known him from the first hours, yeah? Yeah.
You'd think so. I think to be fair to Mr. President, I think he is talking about Don Jr.'s bride-to-be.
But we'll give him that.
So Donald Trump can't go to he's worried about whether he can go to the wedding. He's managed in that answer also to have a good old dig at the fake news media as well. I think the problem is that the wedding is the problem is that the wedding is in the Caribbean.
That's never easy, is it?
It's never easy for a president to just go to the Caribbean for a day, although Trump might just do it. But he mentioned Iran, didn't he? That's ominous.
Well, yeah, he did. Yeah, he kind of evoked Iran as a possible excuse for not being able to attend. And I think, well, if you're in Cuba or anywhere else for that matter, you're thinking, does it follow that he can't go to the wedding because he'll be bombing Iran this weekend? I think if you're in Tehran, you're pretty nervous on that.
Now, James, the primaries. I mentioned on the podcast on, Wednesday, that we would take stock of this week's Republican primaries at the end of the week. So we have got to that point now. And I think it has been a good week politically, if your name is Donald J. Trump. I can see why, for some, maybe casual observers, that might be slightly confusing. After all, Donald Trump's polling, his national polling, suggests that he is among the most unpopular presidents in history, and yet it's been a good week for him. James, explain.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the good week in a bit, but let's just reinforce that business of the poll ratings. He is consistently at a record low. 2/3 of voters disapprove of his performance generally, and significantly now, Mark, I think Republicans, are beginning to turn in greater numbers. Foreign policy, that's hurting him. The war with Iran, that's certainly hurting him. But, I mean, what's killing Donald Trump is his handling of the economy. It's harming him now, and it could well bury the Republicans at the midterms if things don't change and change quickly.
So why has it been a good week for him? Well, it's been a good week within the Republican Party bubble. Of course, Democrats and independents are increasingly unhappy with the president's performance, but the Republican base is sticking with him. We talked about this. We talked about it so much. Would the Iran war impact it, the cost of living and all of that? Would they impact the support among his base? It seems not at this stage still. In fact, they're so loyal to Trump that any congressman or woman who steps out of line has been treated with zero tolerance in many states across the country. In these primaries, the Republicans have been choosing candidates for the elections later this year, and the president has been relying on Republican voters to choose candidates loyal to him, and they have.
That's right. He ordered right-wing MAGA candidates to compete with any representatives who Trump deemed to be too independent, not loyal enough. And it seems to have worked for him. On Tuesday night, candidates backed by Trump won in the primary elections across Georgia, Alabama, and Kentucky, which is fine as far as it goes, fine for those who've benefited from Trump's support. There is a value in that when it comes to Republican primaries. But the question would be how that's viewed by the electorate at large come the midterms. Is it a help or a hindrance to have Donald Trump standing behind you? Texas is interesting, Mark. John Cornyn, he's the longtime sitting senator. Trump has thrown his weight behind his rival, a guy called Ken Paxton, a man with a colourful and controversial past, to say the least. Many Republicans wouldn't touch him with a barge pole, and yet he's being lined up to challenge Cornyn. Republicans are worried that could cost them the Lone Star State, which would be quite the result.
Yeah, it really would. It's a very interesting race, and it's not a primary that's actually happened yet. But the reason it's news this week is because, as you say, Donald Trump has chosen the man. Of the two Republican candidates to be put forward, he has chosen the one who he thinks is more popular among Republicans. Donald Trump is a man who likes to win. Ken Paxton is a man who has been deeply, deeply loyal. He's a true MAGA man. And so Trump, quite late in the day, has gone against John Cornyn, who's a very traditional Republican, who of late has been sucking up to the president. The president has instead chosen Ken Paxton. But here's the thing. Here's the really interesting thing. It may well be the case that among Republicans, Paxton is more popular, Republicans in Texas. But more broadly, it is seen to be the case that actually in the race that will come, which will be Paxton or Cornyn versus the Democrat, and that Democrat is James Tallarico, it is the case, so the polls say, that Tallarico, the Democrat, is much more likely to win against Paxton, the guy Trump's picked, than he is against John Cornyn. So what that means is that Republicans more broadly, who thought naturally that Texas was a pretty easy state to win, they are now much more worried. They are realizing they're going to have to plow a load more money into that race, money that would otherwise have gone to other states, will now have to go to a state they thought was quite safe, Texas, if indeed the race ends up being Paxton versus Tallarico.
Yeah, it's the acid test of whether this president is an asset or a liability when it comes to the polls. I tell you, Mark, one thing to watch will be the response of those people who Trump has knifed, Republicans freed from the shackles of loyalty to the leader. There's one guy, Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. He's found his voice instantly upon losing a primary to the Trump placeman who knocked him out of the primary process. Now, Cassidy is a guy who's been loyal, but in his concession speech, he was speaking about our country not being about one individual. It was a clear attack, two-footed on Donald Trump. And then this week, a few days later, he spoke out against the upgrades to the White House ballroom.
There's no architectural plans. There is no environmentals. There's no engineering. There's no sense of, when we ask, how did it happen to cost exactly $1 billion? In my mind, that is, it could cost a lot less. It could cost a lot more. I just don't get it.
Now, Cassidy, he's still got some time left on Capitol Hill. The question will be how he uses that. How difficult might he and others like him try to make life for Trump and Republicans? So that's one to watch. There is, I suppose, the question of why is this Republican speaking up now and why didn't he before? Where was the opposition to Donald Trump when he thought he needed him? You know, he's the mouse that roared, and many will say a little too late in the day.
So what about the Democrats? Well, a New York Times poll, a new one, shows them, guess what, as divided as ever, despite the national picture leaning towards the Democrats' favor. Internally, they are terribly divided, almost split straight down the line as to whether they are satisfied with their own party or not. And when it comes to which direction voters want the party to go in, half of them voters want the party to move to the middle. A quarter want to see the party look at the electoral success of Zohran Mamdani. Remember him in New York. They want the party to move further to the left. The rest want the Democrats to stay as they are. So the base is totally split. They are, frankly, at sea.
Yeah, this is a problem for them, isn't it, with a view to the next election, 2028. The Democrats need to be a party that is more about being anti-Trump. It needs to be a party that has something to offer the American people. And, you know, what they certainly don't want is a repeat of last time. And they have looked at their performance, Mark. They've conducted a review. And you know what they call a review of strategy, a review of kind of political circumstances, the Americans?
I do. They decided to call it an autopsy.
An autopsy, yeah, as in dead body, as in cutting up and picking over the remains of a patient who has died.
It doesn't bode well if it suggests they think the party's dead.
And is flatlining and cannot be saved. But yeah, this report, it's unfinished actually, into what went wrong.
It's unfinished because they couldn't finish it, and then they couldn't agree on whether to release it. I mean, if they can't even agree on whether to release the report, which examines where they went wrong a few years ago, God help them.
Yeah, it's not great. And in terms of what they did pull together, it's not pretty for the Democrats. It says that since Obama's message of hope when he won in 2008, the party has, and I quote, vacillated between stagnation and retrogression, and goes on to say that Democratic candidates have proven incapable of projecting strength and leadership, and that voters have drifted away. Get out of that one.
Yeah, it's pretty devastating. I saw the report also judge that the Democrats have only won big races in recent years because the Republicans have nominated deeply flawed candidates. So to your point, James, they're not winning because they're brilliant. If they're winning because the other party is even worse. The report also slammed Joe Biden's campaign, saying that it left Kamala Harris set up to fail. We remember that too well, don't we? Now, James, I'm dying to know how China was.
Well, China was great, Mark. Beijing, quite the place, actually.
It's good, isn't it?
Quite the experience. Yeah, I mean, not perfect. It's a place with limited freedoms and, political complications, certainly. But as a place to visit and to operate, great team we have over there. Just a fascinating story. You talk about front row to world history. That was certainly that.
Yeah.
We had, and we had interactions with all sorts of people, including, I tell you, a nice moment on this trip, actually. You used to be the Beijing correspondent, of course. And one of the team over there is Yang Kun, part of the Sky News team. And you sent us a picture of Yang Kun, must be 12, 13 years ago, with your young son, Milo, in his arms. And I showed it to him. And, he kind of studied this picture, looked closely, looked up at me and said, Mark Stone, with genuine affection, in his eyes. And I thought, well, that's nice. So there you go. You're fondly remembered.
That's fantastic. There are some of our local staff in our bureaus. They are some of the longest serving people in Sky News. Yang Kun in Beijing, Samir in Jerusalem. These are truly wonderful people without whom we could absolutely not operate as Sky News. Note as well how Yang Kun has not aged one little bit. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's doing better than us, isn't he? Paula is another key member of that team in Beijing, Mark. And of course, she told me what my Chinese name is. I'm going to play you this and I'm going to ask you what yours is. So here goes. This is my name in Chinese. There you go. Sexy, eh? Matimo. Now, what's yours, Mark?
I actually can't remember what mine is.
Well, happily, with the wonders of modern technology, I'm going to play it for you. Here we go.
Okay. Well, here we go.
Mark in Chinese.
标记.
There you go. 标记.
I don't think they used to call me that.
Oh, the possibilities are endless.
Okay. Oh dear.
So there you go. That was China. But listen, and that's China. What about the UK this evening? The Arias, the Oscars for podcasts.
Yes,
we were nominated in 2 categories, and what happened?
Well, we didn't win. It was excellent to be nominated.
Okay, was I? But congratulations to the winners, of course. I can't remember who came first, but I do know that ahead of us was one of your old favourites, the shipping forecast.
I'm laughing because I grew up with the shipping forecast. Radio 4 was always 198 long wave was always on in the background when I was a child in the kitchen. So I grew up with Dogger, German Bite, all of that. But
North Fitzera, South Fitzera.
That's it. But I didn't. I don't know if I should be slightly offended that the shipping forecast pipped us to the post.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even the shipping forecast. It was actually a podcast about the history of the shipping forecast, in case you thought things couldn't get any worse. But I say that with full admiration and respect for the shipping forecast. Well played. Congratulations. It's iconic and you deserve everything you get.
Here's the question, though. Do you think out on the high seas in the North Sea, which Donald Trump talks a lot about, do you think there's anyone listening to Trump 100, or are they all listening to the shipping forecast? This is a call out to all ships around the world. If you are on board a commercial vessel, perhaps in the Strait of Hormuz, and you're listening to Trump 100, get in touch. Trump100@sky.uk.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching and for listening wherever you are. This has been take 2 for us, and have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
You better go get Susan.